We're not talking about this Gamma. What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. Now today I wanted to do a discussion on PSY-Framegear Gamma and what I'm going to coin the PSY-Frameengine. This is an engine that started spawning up in the OCG utilizing 3 copies of PSY-Framegear Gamma and 1 to 2 copies of PSY-Frame-Driver. Now PSY-Framegear Gamma, if you're not familiar with it, is a hand trap and it has a really interesting effect. So I'm going to go ahead and read it off. So PSY-Framegear Gamma's effect reads, cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned by a card effect and cannot be special summoned by other ways. During either player's turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect while you control no monsters, you can special summon both this card from your hand and 1 PSY-Frame-Driver from your hand, deck, or graveyard. And if you do, negate the activation, and if you do that, destroy that monster. During the end phase, banish this face-up monster special summoned by this effect. So, that was a mouthful, but basically what happens is, if your opponent activates a monster effect while you control no monsters, you chain PSY-Framegear Gamma from your hand, the chain will resolve, Gamma will summon itself as well as a PSY-Frame-Driver from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and then the effect gets negated and the monster gets destroyed. And then during the end phase, whatever got summoned, the driver is going to get banished from the field. Now this is a really interesting hand trap because PSY-Framegear Gamma hits certain cards that wouldn't otherwise be able to be hit by traditional hand traps like Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, Max C, and because we're in this format that's slowly evolving into a very hand trap heavy format, some players are actually looking at PSY-Framegear Gamma for a couple of different reasons. Now this is a really interesting card, both for going second as well as going first. So I'm going to start by discussing the reasons why you would want to play this card going second. Now obviously, PSY-Framegear Gamma is a hand trap, so in any instance where you're going second, you're going to want to have hand traps at your disposal because you need to slow your opponent down. With stuff like the Zodiac combo running around, with True King Dinosaurs and True Draco and all these other extremely powerful decks, you're at a severe disadvantage anytime you lose the die roll and you're going second. And PSY-Framegear Gamma has a really interesting role to fill when you are going second. So I would say one of the hardest things to stop going second is against True King Dinosaurs, more specifically the Earth True King Lithosogem. Now, Lithosogem activates in the hand, and when it resolves, it's going to pop 2 Earth monsters, ideally. It's going to special summon itself, it's going to banish cards out of your extra deck, then the baby dinosaurs that were popped for the Lithosogem are going to trigger summoning more dinosaurs, and it's a card that can snowball and get completely out of hand if it goes unchecked. And what's interesting about Lithosogem is that there really isn't an answer to it. You can't Ash Blossom this card, you can't Ghost Ogre it, and you could Max C theoretically and pretty much get a bunch of draws, but it's not actually solving the problem and your extra deck is still going to get hit. But PSY-Framegear Gamma can actually be a hard counter to Lithosogem because it'll just chain in response. You summon it out, Lithosogem won't resolve because its effect will be negated because it's activating in the hand, and then it'll also be destroyed as well, so you don't have to worry about it coming back anytime soon. And that's really, really powerful. A card like that that's going to take those cards out of your extra deck, that's almost the most punishing aspect, on top of the fact they're going to amass this insane board of like Logia and True King of all Calamities and all these other different cards, but really hitting your extra deck and losing out on your best resources is going to really hinder your ability to come back when they create that insane board. So PSY-Framegear Gamma actually plays a very good role in helping counter that. Another instance where you can use Gamma as well is to stop the Zodiac combo. There's multiple different points in the combo where you could just drop Gamma down and it's really going to disrupt their combo. It might not fully disrupt it, but there are certain points where, you know, they're only going to end up with maybe 1 draw and they won't have any monsters on the field, or they might have like 1 monster on the field and they might get like 1 draw, maybe 2 at tops, but you're going to prevent them from like getting a Trident or something like that. So depending on what you're wanting to stop in the combo, Gamma can definitely help you out with that, and it's extremely powerful for doing so. And then last but not least, in terms of going second, I'm going to talk about True Draco, because the standard True Draco board consists of something like Dynamite Knight, as well as maybe like one back row or something like that. And what happens is, as soon as your turn begins, the second you're going to play a card, they're going to chain their Dynamite Knight to search the trap card and immediately activate it. Well, since you don't control any monsters, assuming you play like a spell card first, because every True Draco player is going to immediately chain Dynamite Knight because they want to get that trap card onto the board. So as a result of that, you can make your Gamma Chain Link 3, chain to the Dynamite Knight, negate its effect, destroy it, they don't get the trap card, and if they don't already have Masterpiece waiting in the wings to tribute summon, there's really nothing they can do about it, and not only are they going to miss out on the ability to tribute summon for that card, but they're also going to lose essentially their resource gaining engine, and they're just going to be in for a lot of trouble because now their board is very susceptible, and they're also very susceptible to getting OTK'd as well. Now I want to discuss this card going first, because going first, PSY-Framegear Gamma actually has a lot of interesting application as well. I mentioned previously that this is a format that's shaping up to be very hand trap intensive, and PSY-Framegear Gamma can actually stop the hand traps that your opponent is using. Now bear in mind, if you're playing Gamma, you can't have any monsters if you want this to work, but let me give you a hypothetical example. Say for example you activate Dragonic Diagram, and let's say your opponent uses Ash Blossom to prevent the search of that Dragonic Diagram from going through. You can chain your PSY-Framegear Gamma to negate the activation of their Ash Blossom. If everything's going to resolve, your diagram's going to be fully resolved, and you're also going to get your Gamma out onto the field. And what's really cool about Gamma going first is that you can actually use Gamma and the driver and make and sync for a PSY-Frame Lord Omega. So the fact that they tried to stop your play actually works into your favor, because now you have a PSY-Frame Lord Omega on the board, in addition to everything else you're wanting to achieve that turn as well. Take for instance Ghost Ogre as well. If your opponent tried to use a Ghost Ogre on your Dragonic Diagram, or even on a copy of your Zodiac Barrage, same example, because you don't have any monsters on the field yet, you can use the Gamma, negate the Ghost Ogre from their hand, destroy it, summon out a driver, and then you get to make a PSY-Frame Lord Omega for absolutely free. And that's just insane, because with that kind of attack power, with pretty much any deck, especially the top meta decks of the current format, you should be able to OTK your opponent with that extra 2800 body on the board, and if not, you've got an Omega floating now that's not only going to recruit your resources, but it's also going to just be taking cards out of your opponent's hand and disrupting their plays as well. Now, I also do want to mention Max C, because Max C is still arguably the best hand trap in the game, and while Ash Blossom can negate Max C as well, similarly to why I just said, it can stop, something like Barrage if it gets Ghost Ogred. If they chain Max C to your Zodiac Barrage, you can do exactly the same thing, and any card, in my opinion, that can stop Max C is something to really consider running long term. Now, another thing as well is a card like That Grass Looks Greener. A lot of players are straying away from grass decks because they're really worried about their grass not being resolved because of Ash Blossom, and that's a very justified fear, because if Ash Blossom negates the grass, they're in a lot of trouble, because that's pretty much the card that's going to win them the game. Well, that's why some of these players in Japan specifically that were playing grass decks, or more particularly grass Infernoid decks, are playing PSY-Frame Gamma to negate the Ash Blossom so that their grass resolves thoroughly, and then they're pretty much just in the clear, because if grass resolves, there's pretty much no reason why that deck shouldn't win, unless they mill the absolutely worst mill of their entire lives. Now, overall, looking at this card, there are some downsides to it as well. I think the biggest downside is you can't control any monsters, and that really, really hurts, because even if you just have one monster on the field, or if that's the only play you effectively have, then that means all of your opponent's hand traps immediately become online. This isn't like Ash Blossom or Ghost Ogre that you can use it at essentially any time you see fit. I mean, this is a card that has a very heavy stipulation that you can't control any monsters, which means it has a very high chance of bricking, and if that's the case, I mean, that would just ultimately be a better card in the long run. Now, another downside as well is going second, because you're not playing PSY-Frames. I mean, you're not going to have the PSY-Frame field spell or anything, so if you're going second and you negate something like a Lithosogem or really anything that your opponent has, the Gamma and the driver are just going to be banished in the end phase, and you're not going to really get the full value. Sure, you accomplish your goal of disrupting your opponent, but you're not going to get that full value of ending on that PSY-Frame Lord Omega as well, which is one of the biggest benefits, in my opinion, of playing this engine as a whole. Now, I think the last thing I want to discuss is it really worth allocating slots in your main deck and also extra deck, because you need to make the room for 1 copy of Omega, 3 copies of Gamma if you're going to go all out, and then 1 copy, sometimes even 2, I've seen the OCG play, but more often than not, 1 copy of the PSY-Frame driver. So that's 4 cards that you have to allocate in your main deck and 1 in the extra deck if you want to support this engine. And with all these other different engines just flying around right now, is it something that your deck can really afford to handle? And that's ultimately the decision that comes down to you as the player, to see that if you see the benefits and if it completely outweighs any other decision and that's what you want your deck to do, then I would definitely recommend it. But if not, you know, there's always better options as well. I really just wanted to introduce you guys to this little engine because it's really cool. You might start seeing it pop up here and there, and it's something that I really just wanted to bring to all of your guys' attention. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about the PSY-Frame engine, and let me know if you like it overall or if you think there are just better options. Thanks so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and if you found this video helpful, consider backing me on Patreon, because just by pledging only $1 a month, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time. 1, 2, 3.